Rosie, I have to believe that's going to be you, 3 Mile Beach.
I've been waiting all night for this. My wife's been sending me text messages. Okay, 3 Mile Beach, clothing auctional area. Some history. This matter first came to the attention of council on the 2nd of February, where a delegation came forward and presented their concerns regarding nudists at 3 Mile Beach. Sorry about that. On the 2nd of March, a second delegation attended council and they made a presentation requesting that council support naturist use of the 3 Mile Beach area. Subsequent to these two council meetings, staff was asked to investigate the situation and bring back options for council's consideration. So the action taken by staff to address this matter, we ended up a site visit. We had discussions with the park staff to better understand existing conditions in the area. We did a web review of clothing optional beaches in Canada and the province of British Columbia. We had discussions with staff who manage clothing optional beaches in BC and in Ontario. We obtained legal advice regarding what legislative ability the city had to address clothing optional beaches. And we created 5 alternatives for council to consider in addressing the issues that have been raised with respect to this matter. In terms of site conditions, the map in front of you shows the existing area. There are 2 separate beaches located here. We have this area here. It's referred to as the north area. There's a swimming beach there. And then we have this area here in blue, and that is the boating and dog beach. The north area, swimming beach, there's an elevation drop of anywhere from 4 to 10 meters from the roadway adjacent to that down to beach level. Intermittent vegetation, and there is main access to the beach area via a set of stairs, which you can see in the photograph on the right hand side. There is a sandy beach area with a swim raft located in this area. There's some photographs of what the beach looks like. The first photograph is looking to the east, the second photograph is looking towards the west, back towards the stairway. At the south area, in the dog boating beach area, there's an elevation drop of approximately 1 to 2 meters from the roadway down to the beach. Vegetation is sparse. Access is directly to or from the road to this area, and it is a narrow rocky beach, as you can see from this photograph, and there's also a fairly steep grade. It's certainly not a flat beach area here. Here's some photographs of this particular area, and you can see this is also a cobble beach. It is not a sand beach. So you get an idea of what this is like. The first photograph is looking to the south, and the second photograph is looking to the north. In terms of recognized clothing optional beaches, and we use the term recognized to describe a clothing optional beach that is managed in some way by an authority having jurisdiction. We spoke with 2. One was Rec Beach, and then the other one was Hamlin's Point in Toronto. We'll start with Rec Beach. That's a photograph of the entrance into Rec Beach. The entrance is at the bottom of a 500-foot wooded cliff, so you have to go from this road area down a pathway and then down a set of stairs. The park is within the Pacific Spirit Regional Park. It is managed by the Greater Vancouver Regional District. It's secluded, 500 stairways down an embankment to access the site. It encompasses 7 kilometers of waterfront. Clothing optional users are present all year. RCMP presence is on site daily from May to September, and park rangers are on site daily to enforce city bylaws and to complete maintenance of the site. They visit the site 3 times a day all year long, and they're present all day during the summer. The beach closes at sunset, and beach patrols and RCMP staff sweep the beach after sunset to move users off the beach. Site amenities include washrooms, storage containers for vendors, and the storage of litter. Some of the challenges we have determined the operators have to contend with here are people cutting trees to build shelters, a homeless population that live in the forested area, fires, boaters in the swimming area, noise. Isolation of this area does provide some operational and safety issues. The only way to actually access this particular beach is by a boat, so they have to bring things in and out of the area by a barge. Controlling the vendors presents some difficulties, sexual activity, and drug and alcohol use. The next beach where we spoke with people is Hamlin's Point in the city of Toronto. It is located on an island, as you can see in the photograph on the right-hand side. It's where the little red dot is, and it is accessible only by ferry or by boat. Here's a picture of the access once you actually get on to the island. It is screened from the park by trees, shrubs, and sand dunes. It's within the city of Toronto. It's managed by the city of Toronto. It's secluded. It encompasses 1 kilometer of beach. It is utilized from mid-May to mid-September, and it contains a clothing optional section and a clothing mandatory section. There is a steel construction fence that separates the two uses, and you can see that in the photograph on the right-hand side. And the uses on this beach are set out in the Toronto Municipal Code Parks section, which deals with bathing, swimming, and sunbathing. Challenges they have at this beach are rubbernecking from boaters, unauthorized photography, and theft of signage, so considerably less than they have at Wreck Beach. There are also some 7 unrecognized clothing optional beaches also located in the province of British Columbia. In terms of a legal opinion, we contacted our city solicitor, Stuart McDonald Stewart, and asked their opinion on this matter. They indicated to us that the issue of nude sunbathing is outside the city's authority. This would infringe upon the federal government's jurisdiction over criminal law. Public nudity can be a criminal offense and is governed by Section 174 of the Criminal Code of Canada. They did offer 3 options. They said you could, and this is with respect to signing, you could put up no signs. You could put up a sign saying that this area is a clothing optional area, or you could put up signs that are informational only, stating what uses one might see on the beach. And it was noted that option 2 does present some risk, as a sign such as this could be interpreted as being outside of the city's jurisdiction because it does infringe upon the federal government's authority to regulate criminal behavior. So, council direction. The recommendation that's brought forward from staff is we provided you with 5 alternatives that I will go through, and we are basically asking for your direction on how you would like to implement them. Staff see this as a policy decision of council. That's why there is no staff recommendation provided on this matter. So alternative 1 is that council directs staff to take no action with respect to the changes at 3 Mile Beach and the status quo be maintained. In terms of the positives for this, there would be no cost to the city, but in terms of a con, it certainly doesn't address the issues that have been brought forward. Second alternative is that council directs staff to install signage to advise people about the possibility of clothing optional activities that may occur on 3 Mile Beach. These are some examples of signage from Wreck Beach. These are some examples of signage from the city of Toronto. And after discussion with our solicitor, this is the sign that we would recommend be installed, and it simply says, "Attention, this area of 3 Mile Beach is used by some members of the public as a clothing optional beach." It's informational only. In terms of pros of this alternative, very low cost to the city, a low risk of legal challenge. It does advise the public about the clothing optional uses that may be on the beach. In terms of cons, it does not create any physical separation between uses on the beach. The third alternative is to install signage to reduce the size of the dog and the boat beach in the south area of 3 Mile Beach, to improve the point area of 3 Mile Beach to create additional park and beach space, and to amend the 2015 capital budget to create a 3 Mile Beach project in the amount of $65,000. This drawing gives you a better indication of what we're looking at doing. So This area here used to be the dog beach, so we're saying you remove that portion of the dog beach still exists here. You put in a swim area here, and you basically make some improvements in this area in terms of landscaping, grassing, and some imported sand above a high water mark, and you actually create another beach area. And then you leave this beach area as it exists, and you place a sign at the top of the existing stairs. So what this does is it creates two distinctly separate areas for people to use in this location. That's the same sign you saw before. In terms of pros for this alternative, it's a moderate cost to the city. It does advise the public of the clothing optional uses, and it does create separation between users. The cons, it reduces the size of the dog boat beach. It does provide one user group with a sand beach and the other with a cobble beach, and it provides one user group with a larger and more usable beach park area than the other. And the fourth alternative is that we install a new stairway east of the existing one. We install signage at the top of that new stairway. We construct a visual screen on the beach on the west side of the base of the new stairway. We construct a separated swim area and add a second raft, and we amend the 2015 capital budget to create a 3-mile beach project in the amount of $100,000. And this drawing shows what the intent was here, and as you can see, the dog beach, there's no changes to that. There's no changes to the point area where the washrooms and parking area is. The yellow is the existing staircase, that would remain, and there would be a new swim area created here. A new staircase would go down here where the black arrow is. Where this black line is, hatch line, that's where you would have a physical separation on the beach to screen use. And then the red area becomes another swimming area. These are some examples of some of the screening you could use in terms of construction of various types of fences, and then there's some natural screening that you also might be able to use in terms of sand dunes or landscaping. In terms of the pros for this alternative, it does advise the public of the clothing optional uses. It creates separation between users. It equalizes beach size and beach material type. It does not impact the dog or boat beach. The cons, there is a moderate cost to the city to do this. And then the fifth alternative, this is really created so that council could recognize any budget constraints that we have, and that would be to install signage this year, and then you simply direct staff as to what you would like us to bring forward in 2016 during that budget process, should you wish to, for construction of some of the more expensive options. And I'll open it up to questions.
Thank you, Mr. Rosier. Questions, council? No questions? Councilor Martin?
Thank you, Your Worship. The dog beach portion, that's I guess on the south, how much of that could we scrape or whatever to put a nice sandy beach there? Is there a possibility of that? I know it's not very much to the road, but.
In terms of placement of sand in this area, that's going to be subject to a Section 9 Water Act application. And one of the reports that was removed from the council's agenda today dealt with the ridge mussel. There are ridge mussels in this area. So as part of that Section 9 application, that will be taken into account. And it's our thought that you won't be allowed to place any sand below the high water mark. All your sand will have to be placed above that. So the cobbles will continue to remain on that beach.
Councilor Martin, anything else? Councilor Watt?
Thank you, and through the chair, to Mr. Moroziak, there is an option on here that would deter clothing optional, or would option 1 do that function?
Your worship, you're quite correct. There isn't one that deters it, and the reason for that is based on our legal opinion that's beyond our jurisdiction to do so. That's why that option was presented.
Councilor Watt?
Thank you, and again to the chair. So am I right then that by status quo or option 1, it's out of our hands and becomes a legal issue, a federal legal issue?
It would be federal jurisdiction to enforce rules with respect to public nudity on that beach. It wouldn't be up to the city of Penticton to do that. So we would simply be saying that is a federal matter, it would be up to them to address it, and not be up to the city to do it.
Okay, Councillor Seed, then Conans.
Not a question, but I just wanted to share with the council. I've listened to both sides receptively. Both have different opposing opinions, but at the same time, to be neutral and to respect everyone, we need to be compassionate and inclusive to all humanity. On that note, I think, in my view, and I'm open to, let's discuss this, I'll be open to either option number 2 with, or maybe even 5, tied to number 4. Because number 5 and number 2, the thing is, you saw the signage now, however, we incorporate into the 2016 budget with the staff direction for number 4 for 100,000.
Councillor Conans.
Okay, so I have been, as all of council has put so much time into this subject, through your worship, and I've talked to people who live in the neighborhood, people who live throughout Penticton, even talked to people who live throughout the world, but although tourists are really important, and it's important to talk to them too, but it's really more the city, the city that we need to focus on. So how I look at this right now is that this is a public beach, so if the same thing was happening on Okanagan Beach or Skaha Beach, what would our situation be? For example, if the naturists decide to go to Skaha Beach, they just decide that's where they want to be, we wouldn't be able to do anything to deter that. I just want to make
Yeah.
I spent a fair bit of time speaking to our legal counsel, and I specifically pointed out to them that other municipalities had passed bylaws and put up signs. And I asked them, how were they able to do that? And the answer I received back was that in the case of the city of Toronto, their signage, in his opinion, they were definitely open to legal challenge. That they could be challenged on that and found that they could not put those signs up. I also asked them about the city of Victoria. The city of Victoria has in their parks bylaw a section that deals with public nudity, and theirs is, it basically just indicates that a person may enter or bathe in the water in or adjoining to a park only if that person is not contravening provisions of the Criminal Code of Canada concerning public nudity and indecent exposure. I thought, well, that sounds okay. They said, you can't even do that. And in their opinion, the city of Victoria's bylaws have been challenged. They also pointed to 2 other situations, the city of Maple Ridge. They did enact a municipal bylaw requiring all persons to be clothed in municipal parks and recreation facilities. That bylaw was challenged in the courts and it was found to be ultra-virus. The city of Surrey enacted a bylaw prohibiting bathing or entering a swimming pool without being properly attired. And that bylaw was challenged by a nudist group and found to be ultra-virus. So our legal counsel says we don't have jurisdiction in this matter. It's purely a federal Criminal Code of Canada issue.
So after speaking with many people in the neighborhood and through the city, and especially in the last month or so, but again, months before that, I just think that I believe there is a time and a place for naturist beach throughout the world and here in Canada, but I just don't think it's there. So I personally do not want to promote it in that neighborhood, just as I wouldn't want to promote it on Okanagan, Okanagan Lake, on beach, on Skaha Beach. I don't think it's fair to that neighborhood to tell them that they should have a naturist beach there, a naturist public beach. And it's too bad the situation, or it's just really fact that the situation changed and the private beach is not available anymore for that naturist beach. But I don't think it's fair for me to push this onto that neighborhood because it is not Wreck Beach. It's not 500 steps down to it. It's not the same situation. This is a neighborhood. And so I believe that I should not be promoting it in that neighborhood. So I would not want to put up any signs. I would want to, the best I can see from our solicitor is that we leave it as a status quo and continue to let the RCMP handle the situation when necessary. So I would make recommendation number one, to keep it as a status quo, and if the RCMP need to be called, they need to be called, just as if it was down on Okanagan Beach or down on Skaha Beach, the same thing would happen. So I'd like to make a recommendation, staff recommendation number one.
Is there a second? Okay, it's seconded, so we're on that at the moment. Councillor Said, and then Sentis.
Through you, Chair, thank you, Councillor Konat. I beg to differ because we're not really promoting it. We're cautioning our neighbors that there may be some action ongoing. We're not promoting anything. We're just taking care of our neighbors. And for that reason, I think the signage is necessary. Absolutely, in my opinion.
Councillor Sentis, thank you.
Well, I certainly agree with Councillor Kunans. This has taken an inordinate amount of time, even sleepless nights trying to differentiate. And while there's been a lot of comment from the world about this, you know, the size of our 3 Mile Beach is very small in comparison to some of the other areas. I take very seriously the legal counsel, and I don't wish to step into a situation that could just become more magnified because we've created something that we have no jurisdiction over. And while the ridge mussel was taken off of tonight's agenda, we have that to deal with. We've got an endangered species that is there that would restrict our doing a lot of things to create a scenario for a select group of people. The other thing that I worry about, this is one group of people. They have an interest, and I'm respectful of your interest and respectful of your choice. But what about a religious group that comes forward and says, okay, we want a space? What about the disabled people that come forward and they want a space? I think we're put in an extremely uncomfortable scenario. So I did consider number 2, I really did. And I guess then with the further conversation tonight, I will support number 1.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Said.
To your worship, thank you, Councillor Santos. I wish you didn't mention this, but you did, so I need to clarify myself. I do come from a religious background, and in my background, this is an absolute no-no. Which is why I am saying, as a councillor for the city of Penticton who has voted for me, I will make a decision without any emotions attached or any upbringings aside. For that reason, I think it is important to be inclusive to all humanity. And just having a signage there saying that there may be, I think that's fine.
Anyone else? Councillor Martin?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're kidding ourselves if we think that people aren't gonna go there, what they've been doing for the past 80 years, and do this. So it probably does make sense to put a sign up that says there may be clothing optional. You know, number 1, I'm probably safe in going with number 1, but I don't think it deals with the issue. We were thrown here, but we were given this opportunity to decide about creating an area for the naturist, and I realize we have federal government things, but to me, it almost becomes a land use issue, and designating a certain area for that, for them to go and experience what they want to experience. That being said, I've been down to that beach, and I went and looked at it, and if we can't do anything with the sand, there's no point in creating that because it's not an option for them. So I would be with Councillor Said just to put a sign up, say that it could happen, because I do believe it could happen. I'd still go for number 1, but I think we should have a sign.
Councillor Penticton? Any comment?
I'm really torn with it. The fact that I am uncomfortable with is that, you know, from the options of creating an area here, it's a special interest group pushing the general public out from one of our beaches, which we just heard overwhelmingly earlier this evening, the value of those beaches to our public. And you know, I'm in the same position as everybody else at this table. I have spoken with a ton of our local constituents, and most of them were not in favor of bringing their families and their, you know, friends and everything to a naturist beach. So, you know, it's almost like saying somebody can build houses on a private section of beachfront. It's a public section of beachfront. That's, you know, the public feels it's theirs, and we're in essence taking that away from them. So I'm struggling with this a lot. I'm very respectful of the fact that everybody has different views and opinions, and some people want to pursue the naturist lifestyle. But I'm really struggling with allowing it here. The status quo, I don't know if it's an appropriate option because it's gotten to this point now. If we just say, well, you know, we can't deal with this because we don't have the legal authority to. I don't know. I'm just not seeing a solution here out of all these alternatives that really makes me want to vote for it, to be honest. So I'm struggling quite heavily with this.
Thank you. I'll just jump into. I agree. I'm the same. Like it's a little bit frustrating. It seems we can't enforce and we can't condone. The putting the naturist beach right beside the private property that was that used to be the naturist beach just compounds the problem, because you sandwiched a naturist beach right in between the public beach and the private beach, so that doesn't necessarily work.
It's not a private beach.
Well, Mr. Rosier?
That is something that I actually did look into, and there's private property there, but the land in front of that private property is a public beach.
Okay, thank you. But for me, to relocate it into what has always been our public beach, the city's public beach, I think it's a little too much in public view, and for me, it's not the hill to die on. Like, we want another location. I was hoping we could investigate other locations. That wasn't council's appetite when it first came for us to investigate, and we gave direction to look at making a clothing optional portion or some signage or some landscaping to sort of create a little area. It's come back, and the legal opinion was a little bit, I guess, disappointing in the sense that we can't really enforce or condone, and it doesn't really solve the neighborhood concern or find some sort of compromise, which I think we're all hoping, because this long history, we sometimes forget this long history happened on private property, right? And that's where obviously this is compounded the change, and that's why it's in front of us. But we were bold enough to actually try to talk about it and try to deal with it, so I'm happy with that, but I'm frustrated with the options that are still in front of us, and status quo doesn't really resolve things, doesn't really resolve the tension between the neighborhood and the naturists who want to be there. I don't have a problem with naturism. That location is maybe too public for my liking, but I certainly think there's an opportunity somewhere, but I'm not sure where somewhere is, and no one seems to be wanting to investigate where somewhere should be or could be, and maybe that's the next step to try to put some more closure to this. But it's sort of frustrating, it's sort of difficult. Councilor Watt, I'll switch to you.
Thank you to the chair. Actually, I was going to say the same thing, as how frustrating it is to not have. I think that beach is too public. I think that the area where it was on private property, whether the beach was or not, And it was forced now into the public portion a little bit more, and now we're forcing the public right out. And I don't think, all due respect to any lifestyle, that it's fair.
Councillor Saheed?
Can you clarify what is fair?
Yes.
Mike, to clarify, I don't think it's fair for any reason to force the general public out of an area, no matter what the reason is. And this particular reason is forcing the general public out of that area. I don't believe that's fair.
Naturists are general public too.
Councillor Santos?
Thank you.
My turn.
Oh,
Mr.
sorry,
Oakley,
sorry,
okay.
Councillor Seed.
Through the chair, to me, general public is everyone. We cannot differentiate who it is. And if I understand it correctly, did the lawyers say that we can have a sign which says it may happen, and that's okay?
Mr. Rosier?
No, we can't say it may happen, we can just simply advise them that we might see this down there, but if you say it may happen, that's like you're continuing, so you can't. But in his opinion, we don't have the ability to do that.
So we can put the sign which he recommended with the verbiage. If we're doing that, we're not really pulling anyone around. This is a historical site, in my opinion, and we deal with issues all the time where I learned a new word, NIMBYs. I didn't know what it was until I asked my mayor, what does it mean? It says not in my backyard. I mean, this is in our yard. We need to deal with this now. And just the fact that federal has to deal with it, we have to deal with it. I mean, who decides at one point? Let's just make a decision.
No, we're debating it right now. Councillor Santos, then what?
Thank you again. You know, we've talked a lot tonight about changes. Neighborhoods see change. My own neighborhood changed, and this is what's happened at 3 Mile Beach. There actually was a gifted situation, in my opinion, where private property allowed something to happen. When that property sold, you had a different opinion. So, you know, it was one way for a long time, and I thought, well, if it was that way for a long time, let's just leave it that way. But we can't, because there's been a change. The property that was allowing it has changed hands, and the people there now say they don't want it. So, you know, I'm just gonna say again, I really worry about trying to accommodate a group when I believe there are other groups who could then come to us and ask for accommodation as well.
Thank you. Councillor Watt?
Thank you to the chair. I agree, Councillor Santos. Sorry, Councillor Said, as much as I agree, and I do, we are all people, and that's the bottom line. It doesn't change the fact that special interest groups, no matter what the interest is, don't take precedence over, sorry for maybe you don't like the terminology, but the general public. I believe that's a neighborhood beach, and the neighborhood, whether they have different beliefs or values or whatever, are being forced away from that beach because they've been forced somewhere else. And I can't support it, and I don't think that we should put a sign up, because I think it looks like we are condoning it or supporting it, and I don't.
Anyone else? Councillor Conant?
Yes, through worship, I agree with Councillor Watts. The general public, from speaking to everybody, the general public is being pushed out. The neighborhood kids are being pushed out. Now, don't get me wrong, I know that naturists have children that they go to the beaches with, and there's families that go. But there are kids that have a history of riding their bikes from the neighborhood down there every summer and swimming on that beach, and they don't, what I heard from these kids, and they don't feel comfortable going down there anymore, and that is the general public. So I don't know any other beach in Penticton that we keep somebody off of it, a public beach, that I don't know of any other. So I don't wanna necessarily keep the status quo. But what I'd like to do is, I'd like the naturist to find another location. And sure, I could say, I'll help you. I'll help naturist find another location. But really, let's face it, the naturist group are very organized. They're gonna find something else. They don't need our help. So I think that what we need to do is basically status quo, meaning that if RCMP need to be stepped up this summer so that the naturists know that that's not a place that is welcome as it was before, then that's probably what needs to happen. But I'm sure that again, they will find another location and it'll work out fine, time will tell, but it'll take a while, I know, but that's what needs to happen on that public beach.
Thank you. Anyone else on council? So there is a motion on the floor, option number 1, which council directs staff to take no action with respect to the change at 3 Mile Beach and the status quo be maintained. That's on the table here. People have heard some of our concern or hesitancy or frustration, but that is on the table, so I'll call the question. All those in favor? Councilor Watt, Conans, Jakubeit, Senses, Penticton. Those opposed? Martin, Said. Option 1 carries. Okay, public hearing.